There's a reason you've been feeling the shift in the atmosphere around you, the subtle pull in your spirit that refuses to let you rest, as though your name has been quietly echoing through the halls of eternity. This isn't imagination, nor coincidence, but divine design calling you to remembrance, because long before you were born, before your feet ever touched this earth, someone in your bloodline made a vow to heaven, and that vow was not forgotten. Though the world may have dismissed your family's story, though generations may have passed and names faded from record, heaven does not forget. There was a moment in time, cloaked in prayer and desperation, when one of your ancestors stood at the edge of their own breaking point and looked upward instead of backward. In that moment of pure surrender, they made a sacred promise to God, not for their own benefit, but for the generations to come. And heaven recorded that vow. Their words became a spiritual contract, a covenant sealed not with gold or ink, but with faith and tears. That covenant has rested silently on your bloodline ever since, waiting for the one with the strength, the calling, and the divine timing to carry it forward. You are that one. It is tied to your name, not because of anything you did to earn it, but because God chose you as the vessel to fulfill it. The weight you felt all your life, the unexplainable pull toward purpose, the sense that you were born for something beyond the ordinary, stems from this heavenly agreement. And now the time has come for you to awaken to its reality. Heaven is stirring, and the angels assigned to your lineage have begun to move, because the promise made back then is meant to be fulfilled now. You are walking into a moment that was foretold generations ago, a destiny that has been protected, preserved, and patiently awaited. There have been many attempts to sabotage this spiritual inheritance. Patterns of generational pain, cycles of addiction, trauma, betrayal, and silence. But even those dark rivers were unable to wash away what God sealed in the light. You have survived what others did not, so that you could be the one to break what they could not. That sacred promise included the deliverance of your bloodline, the healing of old wounds, and the release of blessings that have been dammed up for decades. You are the living answer to a prayer someone prayed on their knees when they had nothing left but faith. This is why your life has never felt fully your own, why you've struggled with burdens that didn't seem to belong to you, wrestled with weights you couldn't trace back to your choices. The truth is, much of what you carry is ancestral, spiritual, and deeply tied to the unseen. But what felt like curses were actually clues, and what appeared as delays were divine protections preserving you for the exact hour in which heaven would remind you of this covenant. Archangel Michael himself has been assigned to this revelation, and he stands over you now not just as a guardian, but as a witness to the vow that must now be fulfilled. He urges you to stop minimizing your sensitivity, to stop doubting your calling, and to recognize the truth. Your awakening was orchestrated. You are not behind. You are on time. You are not unworthy. You are the chosen answer. What your ancestor began in secret, you will complete in the light. And every unanswered prayer, every silenced voice, every broken dream along your bloodline is now being gathered and redeemed through your obedience. You are not being called to carry their pain. You are being called to complete their promise. And in doing so, you will not only change the legacy of your family, but unlock blessings that have been waiting for generations. The heavens have been waiting for this moment. The spiritual realm has been echoing your name, not as a summons to burden, but as an invitation to glory, because the vow tied to your name is no longer sleeping. It is awake now, alive in you, and ready to unfold in power. Do not be surprised if in the coming days you begin to feel things shifting more quickly, more intensely, more mysteriously than before, for this is not just a spiritual inheritance. It is a divine acceleration set into motion by your awakening to the truth of who you are. Heaven has watched silently as you walked through battles that were not of your choosing, carrying burdens no one else could see. experiencing spiritual warfare that made no logical sense on the surface, and yet none of it was random. All of it was preparation. What you thought was suffering was the soul-deep refining required to shape someone strong enough to finish what was promised. You were chosen not because you were perfect, but because your spirit would not break. And now that you've reached the threshold of this awakening, there are gifts being released into your atmosphere. Visions, wisdom, heightened discernment, spiritual downloads that seem to arrive in waves, answers that bypass logic and arrive directly into your knowing. This is not a coincidence. Archangel Michael has been sent to stand beside you and reinforce the shield that now surrounds your spirit, because what you carry must not be touched by the hands of confusion or fear. You are stepping into a divine calling that has layers, dimensions, and generational implications, and it will require a depth of courage not rooted in your own strength, but in divine assistance. That's why heaven is not only awakening you to the promise, but sending supernatural support to ensure you walk it out in full. This is also why certain people have been removed from your life, why certain doors didn't open, and why you were forced to sit in stillness while others seemed to move ahead. It wasn't punishment, it was preservation. You are not called to carry out a common life. And the delay was part of the sacred delay strategy of heaven to align the timing with this exact season, this spiritual hour, where your soul is ready, where your heart can hold the weight, and your mind is prepared to perceive the magnitude of your assignment. The promise tied to your name is not just a private one. It is public in its impact. It is meant to heal not just you, but the ripples of brokenness in your bloodline. Every financial hardship you've endured, every silent night you've cried through, every health battle that threatened to stop you prematurely, all of it is part of the resistance the enemy placed against this moment. Because if you rise, the curse breaks. If you obey, the spiritual agreement is fulfilled. If you speak, chains fall. And the enemy knows this. That is why confusion has followed you like a fog at times. That is why betrayal came from those closest to you. That is why you've spent years wondering if you were somehow forgotten by God, when in fact you were being hidden for divine purposes beyond your understanding. Now the veil is lifting, and as the light breaks through the spiritual fog, you will begin to see connections between your dreams and your lineage, between your burdens and the blessings that now chase you. God is not only restoring what was stolen, He is revealing the divine meaning behind what was allowed. There is sacred purpose in the pain, and now that you know your name is tied to a generational promise, you must carry yourself as someone chosen. This means no more shrinking to fit in places heaven never designed for you. No more explaining your intuition to people who never heard God's whisper over your life. No more doubting your instincts when the Holy Spirit is guiding you through prophetic nudges. You're not average. You are anointed. And the vow made in secret is now ripening in public. And heaven is calling forth every resource, every angel, every open door necessary to bring it to pass. There will be people drawn to your energy without knowing why. Opportunities will find you even when you're not looking. Favor will begin to speak your name in rooms you haven't even walked into yet, because your name carries spiritual weight, ancestral, eternal, sealed by heaven. This is not ego, it is truth. And those who seek to understand you only through the lens of the natural will never grasp the depth of your divine assignment. Archangel Michael is clearing your path now, removing distractions, breaking soul ties, severing spiritual contracts made by your bloodline that no longer serve the divine timeline. What was once hidden is being brought to the surface, and what once oppressed you is now running from the light inside you. Walk boldly, speak carefully, and know that every step you take in obedience is activating blessings not only for yourself, but for generations to come. Heaven is watching closely because you're not only fulfilling a promise, you are restoring a lineage. The name you carry carries fire now. There is something sacred unfolding within your spirit right now, something ancient yet alive, something divine that has been waiting for your awareness like a key waits for the right hand to turn it. Because with every passing hour, you're not just getting closer to the promise, you're becoming the fulfillment of it. Heaven is aligning circumstances, divine meetings, and even mysterious delays not to frustrate you, but to refine you for a moment that is more important than anything you've previously imagined. This isn't just about what you will receive, it's about what you will activate in others simply by existing as a living manifestation of that long-forgotten covenant. Your name holds echoes of spiritual agreements that were made in humility and tears generations ago, when someone in your family line, perhaps a grandmother kneeling in secret prayer, a great-grandfather who cried out in desperation, or even a child who spoke to God in innocence, released a cry in a heaven that was caught by angels and sealed with divine ink. That cry didn't die. That plea wasn't ignored. It was preserved, stored, and protected for a vessel who would be ready, willing, and spiritually capable of carrying it forward. And that vessel is you. This is why you were born into the family you sometimes felt didn't understand you. This is why you faced the rejection that tried to break you, but only forged you. This is why you were called odd, sensitive, too much, too deep, because you were never designed to fit earthly categories. You are spiritual royalty wrapped in human experience. And the more you resist your calling, the more your life will feel misaligned. But the moment you surrender and say, yes, I accept this mantle, I receive this divine instruction, you will notice something shift not only in your atmosphere, but in the people around you. The chains others carry will begin to feel lighter in your presence. Strangers will confess things to you without knowing why. Children will be drawn to you. Dreams will return with clarity. Visions will flow. Your words will begin to land like arrows straight into the spiritual core of others, not because of ego, but because of alignment. This is the difference between influence and anointing. Influence is built by effort. Anointing is inherited by divine timing. And it is precisely that divine inheritance that is now unfolding in your life because of the promise tied to your name. You will not have to chase what is meant for you. It will recognize you by your spiritual signature. Heaven knows your frequency. The angels assigned to your lineage have now been reactivated because you are finally stepping into the identity they were waiting for you to embrace. Do not underestimate how serious this is. The moment you accept your role as the living key to an ancient promise, heaven responds by unlocking doors no man can shut, revealing truths no teacher can explain, and initiating miracles no earthly system can replicate. You will begin to notice old patterns dissolving without effort. Addictions that once gripped your family line will begin to weaken. Emotional cycles that imprisoned your parents or grandparents will no longer find a home in you. You are the interruption to everything that tried to destroy your lineage. And this is why the enemy has fought you so hard. Because if you ever recognized what was truly inside you, if you ever dared to believe that you were the answer your ancestors prayed for, darkness would lose its grip on an entire bloodline. But now you do believe. You are awakening. You are remembering. And this remembrance is more than personal. It is prophetic. Archangel Michael is dispatching warrior angels to guard your spiritual territory as you walk further into this awareness. Because the fire that now burns in your soul is not just for protection. It is for purpose. You were not sent to earth to merely survive. You were sent to rewire, restore, and redeem what was nearly lost through generations of spiritual forgetfulness. Your presence is not random. It's a declaration. Every step you take in faith is a step that rewrites history. Every prayer you speak is amplified by the prayers that came before you. Every act of obedience multiplies the effectiveness of the vow that was once whispered through trembling lips by someone who never lived to see the promise fulfilled. But heaven kept the record, and now the ink of their covenant flows through your spirit like divine fuel. You are the living letter that confirms their words were heard. You are the embodied answer. You are the final fulfillment of the oath made in the darkness, now brought into the light. And God is smiling because finally the promise is moving again. And now that you are standing in the fullness of this awareness, heaven wants you to understand one final truth. This was never simply about your personal blessings, your breakthroughs, your success. It was always about divine completion, a sacred circle finally closing through your obedience, your faith, your yes. What your ancestors started in silence, you are finishing in the open. What they cried for in secret, you are walking out in full light. And because of that, you're not only fulfilling their promise to God, but you're also creating a new spiritual legacy for everyone who comes after you. This is why your awakening matters so much. This is why the heavens paused for your birth, why the angelic realm whispered your name in meetings beyond time, why your arrival was marked not by noise, but by divine expectancy. You were never forgotten. You were delayed by design. You were hidden until the perfect moment. And that moment, child of divine timing, is now. As you carry this mantle, know this: the heavens have sent reinforcements. Archangel Michael is not just watching over you. He is standing beside you, sword in hand, cutting through spiritual interference, ensuring that what was promised is protected. Every obstacle that tries to rise will fall not by your might, but by your authority. Not the authority of titles or status, but the authority that comes from carrying a fulfilled vow sealed by heaven itself. When you speak now, your words echo differently. They carry the tone of completion. When you pray now, the heavens respond not with delay, but with acceleration. You are not asking for things, you are activating things. There's a line of angels behind you now, assigned to your name, assigned to this mission, assigned to enforce the release of what was held back until your spirit aligned with the vibration of the promise. And if you feel overwhelmed, know that even that is a sign, because this calling was never meant to be manageable. It was meant to be miraculous. You're not called to live small. You're called to dismantle spiritual systems that kept your family bound for generations. You're called to break cycles that were normalized for centuries. You're called to birth movements that look impossible on paper, but have already been written into eternity. Your steps are ordered not by logic, but by legacy. Every divine nudge you feel, every intuitive pull, every moment of unshakable conviction is the voice of heaven leading you toward fulfillment. And you may wonder why you feel things so deeply, why your heart carries burdens that don't make sense, why your dreams seem more like instructions than entertainment. It's because you were never just here to live, you were here to remember. And now that you remember, you will never be the same again. The veil has lifted. The old confusion has no more power. The fear that once crippled you has no permission. You are now moving under divine momentum, and it cannot be reversed. You are being shown things that others missed. You are being prepared for responsibilities that your ancestors prayed someone would accept. And you must know this: heaven rejoices over you right now, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. That willingness carries the same weight in the spirit realm as ancient altars, because God can build eternity on the back of your yes. You were chosen not because of your strength, but because of your sensitivity. You're the one who cries at things others ignore. You're the one who feels a soul's pain in silence. You're the one who dreams for others when they've forgotten how to hope. And that's why the spiritual inheritance was passed to you. Because heaven needed a heart that would not be corrupted by power, a soul that would not exploit the gift, a voice that would speak even when trembling. That's who you are. That's why you were chosen. That's why you were born into this specific family, with all its flaws and chaos and mystery. Because inside that chaos, a vow was spoken. And inside you, that vow is now complete. So walk forward, not in fear, but in fierce joy. You are the promise fulfilled, the prophecy walking, the prayer answered. Let the heavens witness what happens when divine timing meets unwavering surrender. Your name will be remembered in the spirit realm for generations to come, not just as one who received, but as one who completed what began long before you were ever born. The angels are still watching. The heavens are still recording. And God is still speaking your name with love, because the promise has finally found its home in you.